You are not lazy. You are just afraid. And now stay with me. Because if you've been self sabotaging for a long period of time now, it could be weeks, months, or even years, I'm going to help you solve the problem of self sabotage in just a few simple steps and help you understand what it is, why you're doing it, and how to overcome it. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, you are not lazy, you are just afraid. So, before we move on to the techniques of how to overcome self sabotage, imposter syndrome, procrastination, whatever you want to call it, we first need to identify it. So, what is self sabotage? Self sabotage is just one of the primary forms of resistance that you and I create to prevent ourselves from being successful. Let me say it one more time. Self sabotage is just one of the many primary forms of resistance that you create and I create subconsciously and consciously that prevent us from being successful. So, we need to find out and identify and home in on what that resistance is. So if it's self-sabotage was one of the things that was holding me back from all of the great things that I've achieved in the last 5 years, like paying off £30,000 worth of debt, getting engaged, married, having my first child, building a multiple six-figure business, and now in the process of moving to the beautiful island of Crete. Self-sabotage was holding me back. And it wasn't because I was lazy, it was because I was scared. I was fearful of what would happen or could not happen if I actually did what I said I would. Self-sabotage is just one of the forms of resistance that you create to prevent yourself from being successful. And self-sabotage is a way of you predicting the outcome. If you're someone that starts something new, you're all excited, taking action in the first week, then it gets tough, then you get this self-doubt, you get this informed pessimism, you end up in the valley of despair, and then you pivot and change, you go back to the start again. The reason why you're doing this, the reason why you are self-sabotaging is because you are fearful and you are worried, as I was, about what if it does work out? What if I step into this new version of me? What if I do achieve the income and I have to maintain it or keep growing it? What if people do want what I have to offer and then I have to fulfill on my promises? Or the complete opposite. What if I put an offer out there? What if I try this new thing? What if I start this business or relationship and it doesn't work? It doesn't go to plan. I don't get it right the first time. So what we do is we go back to old habits. We react to our environment, we procrastinate, we doom scroll, we go back to old habits, we hide away, because by doing so, we can predict the outcome, which means that you'll just get more of the same life, more of the same outcomes, more of the same results. And it will keep you safe because we have this animal, primal, survival part of our brain that just wants to stay the same, that wants to take the path of the least resistance. But it's more painful, in my opinion, staying stuck, staying broke, staying in the same situation than it is from the pain of actually doing the work. And when the pain of staying the same becomes far greater than the pain of change, you will take the first step. But that pain needs to be higher and that pain needs to be leveraged. So now we've identified what self sabotage is. It's just a thing that you do to be able to predict the outcome. You just stop doing the work. You go back to old habits, old ways, and old actions so you can predict the outcome because it keeps you safe. But what keeps you safe ultimately leads to keeping you stuck and unhappy. So, how do we bust through this? Well, number one, we need to create a goal and an outcome and a benefit that's bigger than ourselves. I get it. When we start off with making changes, you want to get a better body, you want to make more money, you want to get into a relationship, you want to heal some trauma, whatever it may be. You do it first from an egocentric place. And what I mean by that is it's all about you. It's all about what money can do for you, love can do for you, health can do for you. And then when you get what you want, when you've got these unfulfilled drive vacuums that then become fulfilled, you then have this battle with comfort. So, what we need to do is stop operating from the outcome of how it's going to benefit you, but how it's going to benefit others. And this creates leverage because there's no such thing as lazy when we have leverage in our life. And what we need to do is create what I call an ethnocentric goal. And an ethnocentric goal is an outcome and a goal attached to something bigger than you. So it's attached to a person, it's attached to a product, it's attached to a purpose, it's attached to a bigger mission. So my biggest mission in life is giving my newborn daughter, who's 5 weeks old now, nearly 6 weeks, The life that I wanted, having both her parents together, having financial freedom, having the freedom to do what she wants when she wants, having me not pass down my scars from my parents. And in order to do that, in order to get there, I need to create leverage because there are a ton of tasks that I have to do every single day in order to be successful, whether that's improving my health, my wealth, my relationships, or my happiness. And there is a huge portion of that list, about 90% of it, that I don't enjoy doing. That is hard. I haven't got it all figured out yet. I'm still learning. It could possibly go wrong. And that is the resistance and pain I have to go through every day. Because when that resistance, the self sabotage or the procrastination or the imposter syndrome meets effort, that's when we experience pain. And pain can be represented by a sword. And then the effort and will is you swinging the sword, which is the pain, against the resistance so that we can slay the dragon daily. And what happens is if you keep swinging that sword over and over again, because you're driven by purpose, you're driven by impact, you're driven by a mission bigger than you, then the next time you swing the sword up against that dragon, guess what happens? You've now got a lightsaber. Then the next day you've got a machine gun. Then you've got a rocket launcher. Then you've got an Apache helicopter. Then you've got a nuclear bomb. So you slaying that dragon daily, and what I mean by the dragon is the resistance that we have. It gets easier and easier and easier. It's never going to go away, but like everything, if you get in the reps, if you turn up to the sessions, you can build that internal muscle, that muscle up here that allows you to just keep pushing through because you're driven by purpose. So my purpose, my why, my leverage is my family. And then this may sound messed up, but I invite you to do this. Is I want you to write down on a piece of paper the payoffs and the consequences of you doing that one thing that you know you keep putting off, that you can't do consistently, that you won't lean into every day, against what will happen if you do it. And I understand where you're at right now. I was there too, where you're feeling hopeless. You feel like you've got no motivation, no effort or will to do that thing. You've tried, you've started and stopped so many times. It's like you're trying to push a friend's car up a hill, but he or she keeps pulling the handbrake up and you just give up. You just get frustrated. So you've really got to write down on a piece of paper, what are the payoffs of actually doing what you said you would? Like writing and signing a contract with yourself daily because you feel like you do right now. You feel hopeless. You feel like giving up. You feel like pivoting. You feel like potentially getting a job or staying in the same relationship and the same friends and same circle because you've tried and tried. And I do that with these fingers like time and time again, but you haven't followed through. You haven't been consistent. And you are breaking that bond and that self love and that self respect and that self confidence with yourself. The only way to have the confidence to go all in with your new dream life, the only way to create the leverage and follow through is to start building that bond and self love with yourself, keeping the promises to yourself. Like, no wonder you're not confident. No wonder I wasn't confident for years because I got addicted to the dopamine hit of thinking and visualizing achieving the thing, than actually the dopamine hit from doing and achieving the thing. So I ended up creating this dopamine feedback loop of just dreaming, of just coming up with these ideas. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. If I do it consistently, it'll lead to this life. And then when I've got this life, I can do that. And I'll just like keep spiraling off onto all these examples and possible outcomes and scenarios and narratives. But yet when it comes to doing the work, I was stuck. And it's because I just trained my brain to get so addicted to the release of dopamine about the dream of achieving the goal that I didn't get the dopamine release from actually doing the work. So I didn't need it. But it wasn't until I created leverage and I wrote down on a piece of paper, what are the actual payoffs to me doing what I said I would? So it might be you picking up the phone for the first time, applying for a loan for a business. It could be you going and talking to that person or healing a relationship or finally going to the gym, whatever it is that you know you need to do that you're not doing that is preventing you from your new life. You keep making the same decisions daily that bring the past back into the present over and over again. You're feeding that old life, and we've got to starve it and start feeding the new one that takes us one more step each day to our to our compelling and inspiring future. And the way we do that is with leverage. You've either got to get inspired daily by the thought of achieving that outcome, which is towards pleasure, or you've got to go and get motivated by avoiding that pain of the consequences. And as we both probably know, watching this video right now, humans, do more to avoid pain than they do to gain pleasure. So we have to create enough of a painful scenario, whether it's a year, a decade, or 50 years from now. I know what my life looks like 30, 40 years from now if I go back to my old life, if I stop doing the work, if I don't lean into doing the hard things. My health, my wealth, my relationships are going to go down. My physical and mental and emotional health is going to go down. I'll start going back into old habits like drinking and complaining and smoking, watching the news, being in toxic environments, doing harm to myself and harm to others. I'll go back to that old life. And if I start feeding it by not keeping the promises to myself, by not leaning into leverage, by not visualizing the future where my family don't get what I want for them and what they deserve and the dream life that I'm designing, and the fault and pain of not achieving that said outcome 20, 30, 40 years in the future is a million times more painful than just doing something new or doing something hard over and over again. So by now, we would have now identified what self-sabotage is. And if you're interested in me explaining all the other 20 to the 30 different forms of resistance, just comment below and I'll make another video. If you've had some takeaways from this or some realizations, comment below and I'll make more stuff about this. But it's all about creating the 2.0 version of you and understanding what parts of the 1.0 version of you right now, whether it's beliefs, whether it's traits, whether it's habits, whether it's skills, that need to be assassinated on a daily basis so that you can recruit new parts and reinvent yourself to be the person that does what they said they would. So you start building that bond with yourself. You start building that self-trust, that self-love, that self-discipline, which leads to self-mastery. So now you understand what self-sabotage is. Now you recognize it's a pattern. When you recognize it's a pattern, it then becomes a choice. And what you don't choose to change, you choose to keep the same. So it's all within your hands. It's all about taking that responsibility, as I have done over and over again, and so have my clients. You can do the same. We are no different. You've just got to create that leverage, write down on a piece of paper, what are the biggest payoffs in the next 5 to 10 years of you doing the one thing that you keep putting off, whether it's quitting a job, leaving a relationship, starting a new job, picking up the phone for the first time, getting out an offer, launching a new business, going onto social media and producing content like I am today. This is one of the hardest things I have to do, but you do it anyway, because as you get in the reps, they compound and it pays off. And if you can just step into that future version of you that doesn't self-sabotage, that doesn't procrastinate, that isn't an overthinker, and identify what they are and start stripping them down and building up new parts of you, then self-sabotage will be a thing of the past. You'll be a man or woman who does what they said they would every single day. You'll make huge leaps and bounds of progress in every area of life. And you'll be able to then step into a new identity and wake up every morning and say, I am these things. And I do these things because of that, because I prioritize this, I value that, I get to do this. And then the journey just continues. So if you've liked this video, just hit me with a comment, like and subscribe for more.